Welcome dudes to Metropolis, a town so dull and normal that just whistling an annoying tune while out and about is enough to get you arrested by the police, which is what happened to Kurt, today's hero of the game Normality. Made by Gremlin Interactive and released in 1996, exclusively for MS-DOS. This was the first showing of the 3D engine that Gremlin had been developing for a while, which would later be used on the horror shooter Realms of the Haunting. It was also programmed by channel favourite coder Graham Ing, who also worked on K240. The game got a far more serious looking box art in the US, which is a little at odds with the game, and to be honest, makes him look a bit like the dude from Postal. As we can see, for such a large box, there really isn't much inside. There's just this promotional leaflet, as well as the game in a jewel case, with the manual pulling double duty as the cover. So after being nicked by the police, we are thrown in the Norm prison, or the Blue Pens as it's known, but everything changes when someone slips you a note, informing you that something is very wrong, as if we couldn't guess that already.
Frustrated? Want to meet some like-minded individuals? Want to do something about the state of the city? Get a job!
Hey, what is this, the Resistance or my parents? And after doing your time, you get thrown back into your apartment and ordered,
"That TV is on 24 hours a day. I'm coming in after you."
You know what, that doesn't sound too bad, unless it's, 24-hour talent shows or something. The apartment acts as a bit of a sandbox for you to learn the various controls and skills you'll need to play the game, as you'll need to use your first person as well as your point and click skills at the same time. You'll move around with the arrow keys and can even look up and down, with this very skewed look, which is important as some objects will only be visible if you look up or down. And the mouse is mostly used for interacting with the world as you would do with any other adventure game. The main way to deal with objects, people and the world is via the voodoo doll, which allows you to talk,
I think I'm talking to myself.
pick up, open, as well as use items as well as people. It's similar to what LucasArts would do later on with the Curse of Monkey Island, with the coin.
I'm not tired at the moment, and I'm not willing to get naked for just anyone.
When you pick up an item, it'll go into your backpack, where you'll then be able to join them together with other objects in your inventory or the world. And while learning the basics, it's inevitable that you'll try to use the sofa, which will break into two neat parts.
See what's down here. Aha! There's some Ah! That's done it. I've broken it.
It will also deposit this nice organised set of coins, as well as this weird gizmo. Better pick that up, as it's making us feel a bit weird, and because this is an adventure game, so you have to pick up anything that's not nailed down. With the basics learnt and a few comedic lines later, we're ready to solve our first major puzzle, which is to get out of the flat and into the city at large. And when it comes to puzzles, Normality doesn't really break any new ground, as for the most part it's inventory puzzles. We're talking to people mostly being restricted to giving you hints to what you're meant to do, and thankfully the moon logic is mostly kept to a minimum. For example, to get out the flat we need to trick the Norm outside that we're still there, and to do that we need to keep the TV on, as it will turn itself off after a few minutes. So the first thing we need to do is find the remote, which is hidden under the pillow. But that isn't enough on its own, we're going to need something that's going to keep pressing the button. Ooh, and what do we have here? A dipping bird, yes! So if we combine those two in our inventory,
Aha! It's keeping the TV on.
and with that we can now get outside our apartment. But we can't get down to the street just yet, as we have to help the old man warm up.
Name's Di. If I were to take you down, what will you do in return?
Now, we've done a few questionable things in adventure games in the past. Remember when we gave booze to an alcoholic? Well, I swear this game goes above and beyond with its questionable acts. Like indulging in chemical warfare where you funnel semi-toxic gases that have been emanating from your bathroom into a prisoner transport vehicle is bad.
I can't hold back any longer. Sorry, mate, but you've asked for this.
Blowing up a shop while the owner is inside is even worse. But giving a man a cup of coffee that due to not having any milk we use paint instead, that's a war
The
crime.
strong abrasive edge of the coffee will probably mask the chalky aftertaste of the paint. At least it looks like milk. Here you go, Di. Sorry about the delay.
Hey, thank you, Sonny. Have you down in no time. Say, this coffee tastes a little, unique.
Yeah.
But with the old man happy, if semi-poisoned, we can now finally explore the area around where we live, which is lots of fun to do in 3D and helps show how detailed this world is.
Never saw this film. It looks too soppy and girly.
You can even try going back into your flat via the front stairs, and they've replaced him with a robot.
Looks like even the norms get bored standing in one place for too long. They've sent a robot to look after me. I'm truly flattered.
To travel around the city at large, we're going to need to use our map. Or in some areas you can actually use the bus stop instead. The factory is our first real stop, which is where we're going to get our job testing furniture. And after you manage to persuade the secretary that you actually are a fat person due to your t-shirt, we get in.
Can you read, Ms.? My t-shirt proclaims in large and garish letters the nature of my stature.
Ah, yes, that will do nicely. One cannot argue with the written word. I am fat. Indeed you are. I'll page Mr. Wrinkler right away.
Which leads us on to wrecking the break room to get our job.
That stuff's boiling! Whoa! Ah! Oh no! Ah!
Then stealing a broken chair, wiring up a bed,
If I have a power source, the bed will work now. If I wire this to this, yes, I do believe...
and finally, braving a conveyor belt of doom, we finally get to meet the Resistance, who are a ragtag group of people who share one thing in common, that they have something metallic stuck in them, which grounds you against the effect that the gizmos produce that makes everyone else seem so normal. Between drill bits, metal hips, or just Kurt being Kurt, who has a ball bearing stuck in his ear, that's enough to help you out. You would have thought there would have been loads of people in the Resistance, as anyone who had a piercing or a metal filling in their teeth would have been grounded against the effect. But nope, it's just a small group of people who are way too busy to be doing anything all that helpful for the fight. Such as Heather, the leader and tech head of the operation, who has the oddest sense of clothing. Di, the old geezer who we fed paint to earlier, who seems to have the magic power of being able to put up his bucket lift anywhere in the city he wants. Or Saul, the previous ruler of Neutropolis, who has an arrow jacket, which I'm hoping isn't pointing to his tip. There's even the Norm, who ended up getting part of a fire extinguisher lodged in his head, who is understandably not all that useful. And finally, we have the rock star and shop runner Brian Deluge, complete with an annoying voice.
Nothing you need to know right now, Nosy Parker, so just shut up and keep quiet, Kent. You'll know more when you earn the right to know more, know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
So in gaming tradition, we have to complete 2 tasks before the revolution will allow us to join them. So cue more puzzles and hijinks as we have to paint a statue a lovely shade of yellow.
Everybody, lie down. Take short, panting breaths, and don't move. Make your way to the nearest exit. I will deal with the fire. Do not panic!
As well as play the latest music video of Brian's on live TV. And in even more gaming tradition, it's just up to us alone to go out into the city and get this done. And we'll travel all over the city during the course of the game, though there isn't a large number of places for us to go to, but the ones they have are quite fun and unique places with both indoors and outdoors locations, and tend to be packed full of little details, like the factory where we'll have to return to a number of times. But it's not just an inside location, there's an entire courtyard outside that we can explore as well. You'll also get to return to the Blue Pens, but this time you're disguised as a Norm, so you can walk around freely. And Kurt continues his evil ways by using mind games on a Norm to make him rush off and use the toilet, so we can get a hidden code behind it.
I must go away now. Rather sudden, I know, but I have an urgent appointment with Armitage Shanks.
And later on, we'll end up in the sewers, where there's everyone's favourite trope in point and click, the maze. Though thankfully it's not randomised, but it is dark, so you're going to have to find the batteries hidden deep in the maze itself to power your goggles so you can actually see what you're doing. But if you do continue on, you'll randomly find this rat and his ninja turds.
Wait a minute, haven't I wandered into the wrong game? This guy seems to be the sensei for those ninja turds.
But my favourite area has to be the Mint Mall, where you have the outside where you can talk to the semi-blind guy and this dog with a massive great big trumpet. But inside there's a number of shops as well as this massive waffle statue. Eventually you will end up painting this waffle, and then you'll end up blowing up most of the mall, but then it is quite fun to come back later and see all the wreckage.
Those crates are full of firecrackers!
And after completing those tasks, as well as quite a few others, you end up having to break into the sports stadium, which results in one of the funniest lines in gaming history.
You'll recognize us because we will all be wearing disguises. Go, and good luck. We will see you there.
Yep, those disguises are so good, I could not tell who any of these characters really are. Those disguises are just way too good for me. This is definitely one of those wacky 90s games that absolutely anything could happen. Hey look, disembodied brain anyone? One thing that does set it apart from a number of other point-and-click games is the fact that some of the puzzles have multiple solutions. Take the IT geek here. We need to get his shirt dirty because he's going to give it to us. Because game logic. So we can either throw dog doo at him, or we can pick up this dirt and throw it at him.
I got it, it's messy.
Or we can scrape beans off this wall and use that. The cutscene you get is the same each time, but it's great that they allow this and doesn't punish you for using the wrong item.
I'll slap it right here on his shirt.
What do you think you're doing, bozo? Well, you dirtied it, you clean it!
Being a late 90s adventure game, it also followed the LucasArts mold, where you couldn't really die or put yourself into unwinnable situations because you missed something or solved a puzzle wrong. This idea was expanded on, as at one point in the game you have the option of destroying all the evidence that the norms have built up against you, and the game branches based on if you do this or not. Weirdly, if you actually get rid of all the evidence, you end up being jailed, so you have to work with Saul on a way of trying to make the mood magnet break down so you can escape. Or, if you leave the evidence alone, you actually get ordered to look after the prison floor, and you'd think that would make it easier to break Saul out of prison. But instead you have this guy watching everything you do because he's trying to make a documentary on you.
You seem a little shifty, no?
Why? Fry, you unwanted techno... I don't think
This mostly ends the same way, with the game converging, with you saving the ex-leader and the game will then continue. From blowing up shops and malls to the simple act of trying to open up a container, explosions and flying curts seemed to follow. But that wasn't enough for him, oh no, as he had to take his destructive abilities to the next level and helps to build a rocket. Because how else are we going to take out the pollution machine that covers the city? Being released in the same year as Quake can make a 2.5D engine seem a little antiquated, but it does a great job of realising the world, with lots of animated textures that help bring the whole thing alive, to having lots of objects which you can interact with. Though it would have been nice if they had more than just one angle for the NPCs and world objects, and even Kurt points this out.
bizarre. I'm convinced that they rotate to face me, like paintings in a horror movie.
It also would have been cool if there was more than just one single idle animation for all the NPCs as well. At least the environments change with your actions, so it really feels like you're leaving a mark, or a scorch mark if you will, on the world.
Yeah, I can lift it now.
Now I've been playing the British release, but it turns out there's more than just box art that separated it from the American edition. The main difference is the voice cast, with the American one getting none other than Corey Feldman in to do the voice of Kurt.
I'm not tired at the moment, and I'm not willing to get naked for just anyone. Ah, too loud! I'm gonna build a luge for my speakers if I ever see 'em. Great song though. Na-na-na, my car's got no wheels, but I'm still rolling.
They also tweaked some of the lines to localize it better for US audiences. Now it might be because I've played the UK version loads, but I'm not sure about Corey's voice, it just doesn't seem right to me. And it's the UK edition that you can find on the various stores like GOG and Steam. I'm not sure if there's some licensing issues that stop the US version being released. If you'd rather play the US edition, then there are patches doing the rounds that will help change it.
That's disgusting! Take a shower, baby!
And there we have it, an interesting, funny and pretty unique title for its time, and one that I'm a massive fan of, so hopefully you all give it a go. And until next time, I've been the Goldfish, that was a dude that wouldn't abide, and this was Goldfish on Games. Goodbye, dude. Thank you dudes and dudettes for watching, I do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, all that fun stuff that only cool 90s kids would do.